Hi, I'm Greg Havlicek, and this is my final for Culinary 233. For my final interview, I chose to interview Jimmy Radecki. Jim is a 29-year-old sous chef at Wildwood Restaurant. He's been the sous chef for 1.5 years, but he's been in the industry for over 10. Wildwood is located at 477 South 3rd Street in Geneva, Illinois. Geneva is a small western suburb about 40 miles away from Chicago. Wildwood is a successful fine dining restaurant with upscale American cuisine. Jimmy started as a busboy before high school. After high school, he liked the culinary industry. He decided to go to Le Cordon Bleu to get his degree. After Le Cordon Bleu, he worked for a few Let Us Entertain You restaurants in Chicago. And later, after working at these restaurants, he received his first sous chef job back in Geneva, where he's from, at Wildwood. Jimmy's been a family friend of mine for quite some time. I actually worked for him in the restaurant for a couple months. I respect his skills, and he's a great leader. I asked Jimmy what his favorite part of the job was in managing people. Jim told me his favorite part of the job are the challenges he faces every day. He talks about how hard he works and all the time he sacrifices, which can be kind of a pain. But because of this, at the end of the day, he feels extremely rewarded by his work. He loves the camaraderie of his kitchen staff and the adrenaline they share together every night during service. He says when they work together and succeed, they become like a family, and it makes their work actually enjoyable. The biggest challenges he said he faces are also a part of the joys. He says he does not get to see his family as much as he would like, and the workload can be stressful. He talked about having to be on his toes at all times and always leading by example to make sure his staff is, doing what they're supposed to do. He talked about having to be. He said that. He said first it was hard disciplining his staff after moving up to the sous chef position. He told me there's a point when you realize it's not important to make everyone feel good at all times. You must be able to call it as it is and help your staff learn from it. When managing, it's all about improving efficiency and quality at all times. You must have confidence in your decision making. He says it's easy to become close with your staff and build strong relationships, but it's the line between business and friendship that must be understood by all that is necessary when in the restaurant. When talking about his novice perspective and now his seasoned view, or the then and now, Jim said when he first was promoted to sous chef, he was very nervous and eager to prove himself. He said by wanting to make an impression so badly, his staff suffered. He was more uptight and yelled more than he does now. At first, he didn't know how to gain respect of the staff without yelling and being hard on them. He told me that that's how he was trained growing up in the kitchen. His chefs were usually yellers, loud. That's how they did things. Jim said he slowly learned that it was not his style. He said he learned to slow down and train his employees at a more gradual pace. He said this helps to boost their confidence in their abilities, and that naturally they will be able to handle more responsibilities in the kitchen. So there's a time and a place for stern discipline, and he has learned to trust his instincts. Jim told me the only way to really figure out your management style is to have lots and lots of experience in different kitchens, in different situations. I asked him what's the level of difficulty finding people right now in the industry. He said it's a lot harder than anyone really thinks. Even though so many people are out of work in this country, it's still quite hard finding the right employee for the job. Jim said there was less difficulty in the city of Chicago because of the high number of chefs that have more experience than they do in the suburbs. Jim says it is not finding applicants for the job that is difficult, but finding applicants with the skill and experience that make it a problem. This is also because Wildwood is a fine dining restaurant that puts out high quality food, and it's in a small suburb. So it's hard to find skilled chefs in a small place. He says they have been extremely lucky and proud of the staff they have put together. Jim says they rely heavily on the recommendations of current staff when hiring new employees. and they require 3-day stops be completed before hiring an employee, and Jim is looking over them the whole time. Training and motivating staff is one of the most important parts of his job. He requires any new applicant to participate in the 3-day stops, as I said. Day one is a hands-off for the stage, where the applicant observes and is recommended to ask as many questions as possible. Jim tries to match the applicant with a current employee for the day to show them the ropes. Day two, the applicant is given menial jobs to test her speed and work ethic. Someone is also watching over him during this day as well. Jim also says he tries to spend as much one-on-one time with the applicant so he can as to make out their personality and to make them feel comfortable with the rest of the kitchen staff and himself as well. Day three, the workload is increased, and he makes the decision if the stage is a good fit with the staff and his or her skills are up to par. Jim motivates employees by treating them as though they are part of something important. Jim says he likes them to know they are appreciated and needed at the restaurant. He says he had worked in establishments where the lower-level employees were treated like dirt, and this made them hate to go to work every day, and in return they didn't put their best efforts in, and the product showed it. Jim encourages employees and pushes them to improve their skills. He says he likes to challenge them with new things and says it is important to increase their workload and responsibilities the longer they are at the position or at your restaurant. He says it keeps the restaurant moving forward, and it keeps them proud of what they're doing and shooting for something. He tries to treat them, I guess it's corny, he said, but treat them how he would want to be treated in the kitchen, with respect. When asked if his philosophies were the same as his executive chef and owners, Jim said they were not exactly the same, but they worked together well. Jim said the owners had given the chefs complete power over the kitchen, which is cool. He says the executive chef is a bit sterner than he is and more of a yeller like Jim was at first. Jim says that the executive deals with him, and that Jim is the median between him and the line cooks. Jim is better at dealing with employees, and his executive chef is better with the business side of things. He says his executive chef is extremely talented and that he has learned a lot from him. Even though they don't do things the exact same way, Jim says he'll take a lot of the business lessons he's learned from him, and he will put it towards being an executive chef as himself someday. Jim deals with stress by spending time with his family and friends. He says it's important to take time away from work and completely put everything else out of your mind. He plays recreational sports and works out regularly as well. He says that helps. I ended the interview by asking Jim Radecki if he had any advice for me starting off in the culinary industry. He told me to take my time and keep an open mind. He said, spend as much time in the different kitchens as possible and absorb everything. He told me experience is everything, and when in doubt, trust my instinct. And yeah, that's my interview for Culinary 233.